Welcome back. Our next guest story is straight out of a fairy tale. Sarah Culberson was adopted by a white family decades ago and raised in West Virginia. But when she grew curious about her biological family, she got more than she bargained for, finding out that she was, in fact, a princess in Sierra Leone. Her story is now being turned into a movie, and she joins us now to discuss her journey. Welcome, Princess Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Sarah, what a fascinating story. And from the beginning, you were adopted by the Culbersons when you were just a year old, and they were the only family you really knew. What made you seek out your biological family?
I always had these questions about who I look like, medical history, and I had all these things I wanted to try to figure out, and I didn't know where to begin. And I just said, I want to find my birth family.
It's fascinating. Let's dive into your search for family members. In 2003, you actually hired a private investigator. You paid him 20 bucks, and 2 hours later, you got some life-changing information. So what did you learn about your family through this private investigator?
So my uncle called, and I thought I wrote a letter to my birth father, but it was actually to my uncle. So the private investigator found my uncle for me, and I wrote a letter, and within 4 days, I got a phone call. It was absolutely amazing to hear family's voice on the phone.
That must have been incredibly beautiful, but can you take us to the moment when someone told you that you were African royalty? How did you find out?
So yes, so I get on the phone call, and they say, Sarah, we are so happy you've been found. Do you know who you are? And I'm like, I'm Sarah. No, this is my Aunt Evelyn. She said, I was there when you were born. I used to take care of you when your mother would go to the grocery store. She said, hold on, let me get your uncle on the phone. And then my uncle got on the phone, and he said, Sarah, we are so happy you've been found. And then he said, do you know who you are? And I'm like, I'm Sarah. He said, you are part of a royal family. Your great-grandfather was a paramount chief. Your grandfather, you can be chief someday. You are a princess in this country. And I was completely overwhelmed. I was sitting there thinking, no, wait a second. I thought I'm just going to see a picture or hear some stories. I had no idea that was the last thing I would ever guess. You're a princess in this country. So it was this whole new world that opened up, and it was so absolutely inspiring.
Take us through the actual emotions and maybe how you told your adoptive family about the fact that you were a princess.
This is really funny because when I told my sisters, who I grew up with, Lynn and Laura, they were in all the pictures that you were just showing. My sister Lynn was like, well, we always knew she was a princess, which is kind of funny. My sisters, I love them. They like to tease me. I'm the youngest in my family that I grew up in, and then I'm one of the oldest in my African side. But it was really incredible. And I thought to myself, do I have to wear dresses all the time now? Do I have to be perfect? Can I never say a bad word or something? I mean, what does this mean exactly? And I didn't really know what all of it meant. And I started to learn about my family in Sierra Leone and what they had been through after an 11-year Blood Diamond War. And I saw that my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my uncle, my family, my father actually had been doing work in education and impacting the country in so many different ways. My grandfather was knighted Justice of the Peace by the Queen of England for all of his work in education. So our family has done so much within the country, and I started to learn about that. And I realized, okay, being a princess is not just about, okay, I'm a princess and we have all of this stuff. It's about being responsible. It's a responsibility in a country, not just into individuals or to my family, but to a community and to a country at large.
When you had that first call with your biological father, did he explain to you why you were put up for adoption?
Yeah, he did actually. That's a really great question. He said, my father was very young, and he had just come to the United States. And I was a surprise with my birth mother, right? And there he is. I love that picture. And so I was a surprise. And he said he knew he was there to get an education. And my birth mother said, hey, listen, Joe, her name's Lillian Pearl Matheny. And she said, I got this. I'll take care of her. You go to school. So he was in college. And then after 9 months, she said, hey, I don't have this. I don't think I can do this on my own. And I know you're in college. You're trying to make it. I think it would be best if we place her in adoption. And he said, he thought about it and he said, okay, if you think that's what's best, because he knew where he was, he couldn't do everything that he needed to do and she needed to do. And honestly, I think they've made a really smart decision because they gave me to the best family in the world who could give me the things that I needed as a child rather than two folks who were trying to figure out how to make all these things work. So I really have to say I admire to the utmost parents who place their children in adoption. They have what we as adopted kids don't understand. We sometimes think, oh, they didn't want me. Was I not enough? Like that's something, because I work with adopted young people and that's a conversation that we have. But what I've learned is it's so hard to place your child in adoption. It rips families' hearts out. And it's actually such a selfless act. So I'm just so grateful. My family, my birth family gave me to my family who I was raised in. And now we all get to see each other, work together, do projects in Sierra Leone. I took my parents to West Africa, which was so magical. And it's just been a really incredible experience that I never thought I would have in this lifetime.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about that. I understand you went to visit Sierra Leone, and there had been 2 years of peace following decades-long civil war. So tell us what you saw.
When I arrived in Sierra Leone, one of the things, the first part that was so beautiful before I saw the destruction is I saw what happened after this 11-year civil war. I saw people who had missing arms, missing legs. The wonderful part was they had a celebration and they gave me this beautiful green African dress and all the women came forward, hundreds of people to welcome me. And all the women came forward wearing the same green dress, singing, "We're preparing for Sarah," which was absolutely beautiful and amazing. And then as the celebration and excitement started to die down, I saw what happened after the 11-year civil war. And I saw, as I mentioned before, people with missing arms, missing legs. And I really had to realize that this was a war that had caused a lot of destruction. And I can't just go back to America and act as if I didn't see this. This wasn't the Blood Diamond movie that was made years ago with these actors that I could push pause on. This was my family. And this is a community that went through so much. So we went back to the United States and we started a nonprofit. We originally named it the Pessoa Foundation, which is my family's name in Sierra Leone. And then we renamed it to Sierra Leone Rising. And we're doing work in public health, education, and female empowerment. And one of the things that's so special to me is that my dad, I call my dad who raised me my dad, and my birth father in Sierra Leone, my father. So my dad and my father worked together with Rotary and Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation to get wells for clean drinking water in the provinces. Because after a war, a lot of people didn't have access to clean drinking water. And they worked together to make that happen. So we were able to dig 9 wells, that are serving 12,000 people with clean drinking water. And that's actually my brother there, Hindo Bay. He's a lawyer actually in Sierra Leone, and he runs our whole nonprofit team on the ground, and I run the nonprofit arm here in the United States.
So incredible. I mean, your story obviously reads like a movie, so it's not surprising that Hollywood came calling. A movie is now in the works. It is being produced by Stephanie Allain, the first Black woman to produce the Academy Awards, in fact. So tell us what you hope to achieve through the movie.
That's a great question. And we talked about that when we were working with a writer, thinking about what do we want people to leave with? And I think there are so many messages that are there about culture and understanding about another culture across the world. In Sierra Leone, I think people who've ever wanted to adopt may think about transracial adoption or adopting, period. I think that there are so many different ways that we can actually connect through this movie to have people come together and think about family and forgiveness, because I didn't realize I was really angry at my birth father. But once I kind of let go of that anger, I realized, well, wait a second. What was it like to be an African man in West Virginia at that time with a white woman? Maybe I should give this man a break. And I think forgiveness is something that we all can learn from and give ourselves such freedom.
Princess Sarah Culberson of Sierra Leone. What a fascinating and inspiring story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and for all the work that you continue to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back.